So I haven't got too long, so I'm just going to get started. But I was just wondering about how you were sort of first approached to have your life story told, and what your initial thoughts were when that idea was being sort of discussed.
I think we were approached like a couple of weeks after the Melbourne Cup. I took on a new management group straight after the race because everything was crazy, and I think the requests started coming in straight away. But I remember meeting Rachel Griffiths in December. Stevie and I were up at Randwick in Sydney for a race meeting doing photos, and she lined up and waited in line for like an hour. And I remember her sidling up beside me, and she introduced herself like I knew who she was. But she introduced herself and said she really wanted to make my film, and she wanted to make an inspirational story for young women, and she was so passionate about it. So when we signed up with her, I was really happy because I just got a really good feeling from her. And Richard Keddy, who was the producer as well, they were really just so passionate about making an inspirational film. And I was really happy with what they finally made in the end.
Yeah, because I guess you're obviously very precious about this story because it's your story. You have ownership over this tale because it's your life story. But did you have to let it go? And was that quite hard? Because I guess in some ways you have to pass over this telling of your story to directors and to writers to let them kind of do their thing and turn it into a movie. But was that actually quite hard in some ways to hand it over and let someone else tell it?
Not really. I had full faith in them from meeting Richard and Rachel. They were really lovely people and just had real warmness about them. I think my family was a little bit nervous because we're quite a private family, and growing up we were 10 kids with our dad raising us. It was quite a it was a bit of a rough childhood, but I think once Stevie was, cast as himself in the film, and they got, a better understanding of Rachel and Richard and what they were going to, make in the film. Everybody was quite excited, quite excited to see Stevie. Who could imagine he'd be playing a third role in a movie? It was really fun to see him up there.
So I imagine you must have visited the set a few times, particularly just to see Stevie. And what was it like being around on the set?
It was fun. It was so funny to see, Teresa Palmer, who was playing myself, in action, and Stevie with her, like, as she's playing me. It was really an experience, as you could imagine. Who could imagine a film being made about your life? And then, to see Sam Neill, who was playing my dad, who was, just the perfect cast for the role. It was, like I said, it was a really fun experience and something I'll never forget.
So how good a job does Teresa do? Because I just in terms of just capturing the kind of mannerisms and stuff of yourself. And was it quite weird to see someone doing a version of yourself?
Yeah, she was amazing. Even down to the way I walked. I was laughing watching the film. Like, she was just the most amazing professional. Her and Sam, Sam Neill came up and he met my dad and he studied him and he videoed him on his phone, and he just captured, his character so well, as did Teresa Palmer. She was just unbelievable, right down to her facial expressions. It was an amazing experience to see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, just like myself, you would have grown up watching Sam Neill in films like Jurassic Park, this, and movies like this, sort of huge, sort of global superstar. To see him play your father must have been a really surreal experience. To see a movie star of that kind of caliber, sort of playing your own dad.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, when he was first, signed up, I was so happy with, as you can imagine, and as was Dad. So, it was such an experience. And not only that, you really get to see how much the actors put into the films. Like, such long days, and they're really quite incredible. I've really found a newfound respect for them as well.
So does your dad like the movie as well? What does he make of Sam's portrayal?
I think he was very happy with Sam, and I think he sort of, he was a bit more judging of the film than me, because obviously he's my dad, and he was like, "Oh, you had a lot more wins along the way," and I was like, "Yeah, but they have to, obviously it's an hour and a half film or whatever it is." But yeah, he obviously loved it, and I think the best thing about it for all of our family is seeing Stevie up there. Firstly, he's been able to strap a winner of a Melbourne Cup, and then he's playing himself in a movie. It's just so unbelievable and so much fun.
Had Stevie sort of expressed any desires in the past to get into kind of acting and do stuff like that? Or was it a bit of a surprise for you when he showed an interest in playing himself?
Well, he's a pretty cool character, to be honest. I wasn't surprised. He was happy to give it a go, and yeah, he just enjoyed every moment of it. It was so funny watching him every time he came on screen. You know, with his role, our whole family would just laugh because we know him so well. But he was so much himself in the movie, which was just, it was the best thing to see. Like he's so funny and quick-witted, and he's got these really great one-liners, and they really got that out of him in the film, which was just, it was so good.
So what was it like all watching it together in the cinema? I mean, with your family, you would have needed probably an entire row to yourself. But how was it kind of all being together and sharing that experience? Because I'm assuming when there's so many of you, it must be quite hard to get all of you in the same place at the same time.
I think everybody was pretty excited to come to watch the movie. It was a little bit nerve-wracking because I just hoped they liked it. I'd seen it before everyone else, and at the premiere was the first time they all got to see it together. So yeah, I was a little bit nervous because obviously wanted everybody to be happy, but at the end of the day, I thought they would be, and they absolutely loved it. Like every time Stevie was on screen, we were just like bursting into laughter, and Sam Neill, who played Dad, was just so good, and just the movie's obviously filled with some really fun times that we got to relive. Obviously, there's some real tragic times which was hard to watch, but it was a part of our life and part of the story, so that had to be in there.
Yeah, was it? I'm assuming it must have been at times quite an emotionally quite challenging movie to sit through, because I guess it's like you said, it doesn't just show all the high points. It also has to, as the story kind of needs to serve your life, it needs to show the sort of lower points as well. So it must have been quite tough to watch at times, I imagine.
Yeah, when I first watched it, like I didn't know what to expect because it was obviously, I didn't know what was in it, and I guess there was probably five times through the film where it really, was emotional for me to relive. It's like some really tough times, but yeah, like you said, it's a movie. It can't all be the good times, and I think that obviously shows the journey and the life story of why they wanted to make a film out of my life. So they had to put in the low times, but yeah, it was tough to watch that again, but that's life, and you have to move on from that.
So are you able to watch the film like an audience member and kind of enjoy it as just a story, almost like it belongs to someone else, or are you constantly scrutinizing it over it being your life and your story? Or are you able to separate yourself and just watch it like I would, for example, and just get taken away by the story?
Yeah, I just separated myself from it. I think that was the best way to approach the situation. And when I first went in to watch it, I just thought, just take it for what it is and enjoy it as much as you can. And I absolutely loved it. Like, I thought they did a really good job of capturing the essence of the story and the highs and the lows. And, I love the music choices they make through the film. And the final scene of the Melbourne Cup is just so incredibly done. The build up, it's a long build up, and for me to be able to relive that day is just so incredibly special. Like the way they've done it, and just, the way they've captured my family watching it and all the rest of it, because obviously I'm in the race in the moment, but you get to see the whole different side of things, which is, it's really special.
And of course, like you sort of mentioned, it's a really inspiring story for young girls. And I don't just mean girls who want to get into horse racing, in any walk of life. It's about kind of like defying the odds and kind of persevering and stuff like that. I was just wondering when at the time, because obviously I'm sure you've been told many times what an inspiring story this is for kind of young girls. Did that ever go through your head at the time? Did you ever think about kind of how this story could be for the kind of young audience and what this could mean for young women around the world? Or is that something you've only really been able to appreciate kind of now in hindsight?
It actually is quite funny because in the lead up and, crossing the line, I never thought of myself as being the first female jockey to have won the Melbourne Cup. Like it was just a lifelong dream of mine to ride in it and to hopefully one day be successful. So that wasn't something I'd ever thought about, but it actually became pretty apparent to me, like probably 5 minutes after I got off Prince of Penzance and I was being interviewed, that it was much greater than just my dream. It was, it was a moment in time where, we just sort of won the greatest race in Australia's, history, and that's when it sort of hit me. But it was a role I, have taken on gladly, to be now a role model for the younger generation coming through, because I've said many times before that I was lucky to have unbelievable role models before me, with my older sisters and other female jockeys, and I don't have any little sisters to carry that on to. So the next generation coming through, if that can help them, I feel like I'm doing my part in keeping that going.
Cool. So yeah, I just wanted, the next one was really, well, this was a question. But first, I was just going to say, it might sound really silly, but do you to Penzance? Do you still, is that, because I imagine you went through this moment together, do you still go and visit him?
I'm lucky enough to be able to see him when we do functions together. He'll quite often be brought along to a photo shoot or some kind of event, so I get to catch up with him then. I actually did ask if I could get him, to have in his retirement on my farm, but the trainer wanted to retire him on his farm, and he spends a lot of time at Living Legend. So yeah, I get to see him when we're doing functions, which is great.
Just very quickly before I go, I was just wondering about this new chapter kind of in your life, the film experience, the kind of, how much have you kind of enjoyed, and how surreal are the kind of red carpets and the kind of Vogue photo shoots and stuff? What's this kind of new chapter been like? It must be quite an exciting, quite a sort of a fun one to be going, a sort of journey to go on.
Oh, it is. It's like being in a movie, to be honest. It's so funny to be going from, riding around racetracks and getting dirt kicked in your face to being dressed in these incredibly beautiful gowns and, on the red carpet posing for photos. It's another world to what I'm used to. So it's been, so much fun, and to be able to take my best friends and my family with me with that on that journey has been, something so special, and something that we'll never forget.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey!